You're standing in a driveway looking at a car that looks perfect. Clean paint. Low mileage. A seller who seems honest, maybe even a little too eager to close the deal today. You're about to hand over $8,000 for it. What you don't know is that 6 months ago, this exact car was sitting in 3 feet of water. Every year, after major hurricanes and flash floods across the country, tens of thousands of vehicles get totaled by insurance companies. Some of those cars get crushed, like they're supposed to. But a large number of them get bought up cheap at salvage auctions, cleaned up just enough to look normal, and quietly pushed back into the used car market, sometimes with a clean title, sometimes retitled in a different state where the flood history was never carried over. And here's the part that should worry you. A flood car can pass a basic test drive with 0 problems. It can start fine. It can drive fine for weeks. Then the corrosion that's been building inside the wiring, inside the computer modules, inside the transmission, starts taking the car apart from the inside. And by the time it shows up, you're not looking at a $200 repair. You're looking at $4,000, $5,000, sometimes $10,000 in electrical and mechanical failures on a car you already paid full price for. The good news is, flood damage leaves fingerprints. You don't need to be a mechanic to find them. You don't need any tools. You need about 60 seconds, in the right order, looking in the right places, because most buyers, if they check at all, only look in the obvious spots. The seller knows that. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly where flood damage actually hides, the same checklist a professional inspector would run, so you can catch it before you're the one holding the bill. Let's start with the first and fastest check, and it costs you nothing: your nose. Get in the car, close every door, and turn the climate control on full blast, heat first, then air conditioning, and just breathe. You're not smelling for new car smell or cleanliness. You're smelling for what's underneath it. A musty, damp, basement-like odor is one of the strongest flood indicators there is, and here's why it matters. That smell is very hard to fully remove. Some sellers will spray heavy air fresheners, pine scents, vanilla, anything strong, specifically to mask it. So if you get into a car and the smell is almost aggressively strong, like someone tried too hard, that's not a coincidence. That's a red flag disguised as an air freshener. Roll the windows up, run the vents on full for a solid minute, and pay attention to what comes through once that initial blast of fragrance fades. If the smell test raises even a small doubt, move to the second check, and this one is where most flood cars actually get caught: the carpet. Pull up a corner of the carpet in the footwell, front and back, both sides if you can, and look at what's underneath it, not just the top layer you can see while standing outside the car. You're checking the padding. Dry padding is usually a light color and feels normal to the touch. Water damage padding is often stained, discolored, sometimes stiff or crunchy where it dried out unevenly, and in worse cases you'll actually see silt, fine sand, or dirt residue pressed into the fibers. That silt is the giveaway, because regular spilled coffee or rain from a wet umbrella doesn't leave sediment behind. Floodwater does. While you're down there, open the trunk and pull back the mat to check the spare tire well too. That's the single lowest point in most cars, which makes it one of the last places water fully evaporates from, and one of the last places a detailer thinks to deep clean. The third check takes it one step further, and it's the one that's almost impossible for a seller to fake, because it's not about cleaning, it's about corrosion. You're looking for rust in places that should never rust on a car that hasn't been underwater. Check the seat rails, the metal tracks the seats slide on. Check the bolts holding the seats to the floor. Check the hood latch and the trunk latch. Check the metal brackets tucked up under the dashboard and the pedal arms themselves. These are all unpainted metal parts that live inside a sealed, climate-controlled cabin. They are not exposed to rain. They are not exposed to road spray. And under completely normal conditions, they should look basically the same as the day the car left the factory. If you find rust, flaking metal, or a rough, pitted texture on any of those specific spots, that is not normal wear. That is a car that had water sitting inside its cabin long enough to start corroding steel that was never designed to get wet. Here's a fourth check most buyers have genuinely never heard of, and it takes 10 seconds. Pull the seatbelts all the way out, every single one, front and back, until you can see the very end of the webbing, right near the retractor. Floodwater rises from the bottom, and seatbelt retractors sit low, tucked into the door pillar. When a car floods, water gets pulled up into that belt webbing, and it often stays stained or gritty at the very end, even after the rest of the belt has been cleaned and looks completely normal. A seller detailing a flood car will shampoo the visible part of the belt. Almost nobody thinks to pull it all the way out and inspect the last few inches. That's exactly why it works. While you're checking the interior, run through a few more fast signs. Look at the electrical components, power windows, power seats, the interior lights, the radio, and pay attention to anything that behaves inconsistently. A window that goes up slower than the others. A dashboard light that flickers when it shouldn't. Corroded connectors from water exposure often cause exactly this kind of intermittent, hard-to-explain electrical behavior, and it's easy to write it off as just an old car quirk instead of what it actually is. Check the headlights and taillights too. Condensation or fogging inside the lens housing, especially on a car that's supposedly never had accident or water damage, is worth asking about directly. And take a close look at whether the carpet color and texture actually matches front to back and side to side. A full carpet replacement after a flood is common, and mismatched carpet, or carpet that looks noticeably newer than the rest of the interior, is often the result. There's one more area worth 30 seconds of your time before you close the hood and head out on the test drive: the engine bay. Pop the hood and look at the same kind of unpainted metal we checked inside the cabin. Bolt heads, brackets, the underside of the battery tray, the metal clips holding wiring harnesses in place. Floodwater gets into the engine bay just as easily as it gets into the cabin, and detailers almost never think to deep clean under there because it's not what a buyer usually looks at. Rust or corrosion on connectors, plugs, or brackets that should be clean on a car this age is the same red flag as the seat rails, just in a different location. While you're in there, check the air filter housing too. If you see water staining, silt, or a musty smell coming from inside the air intake, water made it further into the engine than it ever should have, and that's not something a wipe down fixes. Now, quick reality check before you go further. A clean vehicle history report does not rule any of this out. History reports rely on damage being reported to an insurance company or a state title system in the first place. Cars that get fixed up privately, sold as is, or moved across state lines specifically to avoid a flood title showing up can absolutely come back completely clean on paper while still carrying all the physical evidence we just walked through. That's not a flaw in the report, it's just a gap you have to close yourself, in person, with your own eyes. This is also why it's a private sale, not a dealership, so it should be safer is one of the most dangerous assumptions a buyer can make. Dealerships are required to follow disclosure laws and typically have more to lose reputationally. A private seller who bought a flood car at auction, cleaned it up, and is now reselling it as a no accidents. Garage-kept family car has no dealership license on the line, and in many states, far fewer disclosure obligations. That doesn't mean every private seller is hiding something. Most aren't. It means the checks we just went through matter just as much, if not more, in a driveway as they do on a dealer's lot. One more free step worth doing before you ever meet the seller: run the VIN through the NHTSA's free VIN check tool, and separately, look up an NHTSA-based title check. These pull from different databases than a standard paid history report, and they specifically flag salvage, flood, and total loss titles reported by insurers and junkyards. It won't catch everything, nothing will on its own, but it takes 2 minutes and it's free, so there's no reason to skip it before you even schedule a time to see the car in person. Before I go any further, if this is useful to you, hit subscribe now. I'm covering one hidden red flag like this every single day this week. Everything from odometer tampering to the exact words to use when a dealer won't budge on price, so you don't walk into a dealership or a private sale unprepared. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are about to make the same mistake you're trying to avoid. So if you found even one thing in this video useful, that subscribe button is the easiest way to say thanks. So let's put the whole 60-second routine together. In order. Smell test with the vents on full blast. Pull the carpet in all 4 footwells and check the trunk spare tire well. Inspect unpainted metal, seat rails, bolts, latches, pedal arms for rust that shouldn't be there. Pull every seatbelt all the way out and check the last few inches near the retractor. Test the electrical components for anything inconsistent, and run a free VIN check in NMVT's title search before you ever get in the car. 5 checks, 1 search, about 60 seconds of actual physical inspection. That's genuinely all it takes to catch the vast majority of flood cars being resold without disclosure. Here's the thing though. Flood damage is just one of at least 8 ways a great deal on a used car turns into a 5-figure regret. There's odometer rollback that's nearly invisible unless you know the specific wear patterns to check. There's transmission failure that hides perfectly during a 5-minute test drive around the block but shows up 3 weeks later. There's structural rust, fabricated maintenance records, and negotiation tactics specifically designed to make you feel like you're getting a win, while the total price quietly goes up behind the scenes. I put every single one of these, the full inspection system, word-for-word negotiation scripts, a printable 100-point checklist you can bring with you on a clipboard, and a complete field guide to the biggest used car scams in America, into one guide called the Ultimate Used Car Buying Kit. It's built from data and standards referenced by NHTSA, CARFAX, Edmunds, JD, Power, and Consumer Reports. And it's written so that even if you've never so much as checked your own oil, you'll know exactly what to look for and exactly what to say before you ever hand over a deposit. There's a link in the description and pinned in the comments. It's a one-time download. You can read it on your phone in the dealership parking lot, or print the checklists and clip them to a board, and if it doesn't help you, there's a 30-day guarantee, no questions asked. A professional pre-purchase inspection alone typically runs $100 to $250. This is built to help you narrow down to the 1 or 2 cars actually worth paying for that inspection, instead of paying for 5. There is always another car. Only one of them is the smart buy. I'll see you in the next video, where we're breaking down the odometer trick that almost nobody catches until it's too late.